Thank you for tuning in. This is, of course, is Shikama Live. Your host, Kevin Cardinale. Today I'm going to talk about reparations. Being discussed and thrown around the net as well in Washington. On the one hand, some states are simply proposing apologies to slavery in their state legislatures, and the citizens are balking at that. Wow. We'll always present affirmative action as a bastion of equality in the land. Affirmative action never works, hasn't worked, is horrible for every candidate, and has been sued against by white people to nearly out of existence today. Immediately, as black hirees enter a firm, they have a stigma of, he's here because of affirmative action, regardless of him actually being hired on his own merits, like me all the time. The program is trash. The 1988 Civil Liberties Act opened the door for the Japanese to receive reparations. Those checks started going out in 1999. Yep, just 10 years ago. Ronald Reagan signed it into being. Now, World War II was a long time ago. However, slavery didn't happen a long time ago, as some may think. For the most part, African American descendants were still basically enslaved until the 1960s, where afterwards they were promptly jailed. A lot of white people like to think blacks are the main recipients of today's social programs. White people are the main recipients of all those social programs. Let's take a look at the numbers. 86% of African Americans are employed, 91% in 2001. 75% of African Americans live above the poverty line. 11% of African Americans who live below the poverty line are not eligible for public assistance or any social program. 14%, or 5,292,000 of African Americans are below the poverty level, are eligible for public assistance. However, 3 million of those are in jail and don't receive any public assistance, leaving 2,292,000 eligible for public assistance. There are over 50 million white people on public assistance. There aren't even 50 million African Americans in the United States. The median income gap between whites and blacks have drastically widened since 1971. For the most part, a lot of African descendants still suffer from the evils visited upon the slave, the sharecropper, and the civil rights marcher. A huge swath of African descendants are still illiterate, like me, to this day, and live in abject poverty or are jailed. Do African descendants deserve reparations? A, we gave reparations to the Japanese we jailed for a very short period of time during World War II. B, we gave reparations to the citizens of Guam on behalf of the Japanese who had attacked them. Don't get me wrong, I'd move to Japan in a heartbeat, but I'm only conversant in Japanese, not fluent. Surely, if we are handing out reparations for injustices visited upon people on behalf of the United States, the most tragic story visited upon a people, African Americans, on the face of the planet deserve reparations. I think the reason this is such a hot button is that white people don't want to admit their sins. slavery led to Jim Crow laws and lynchings and terrorism on blacks, all the way up until the 1970s. There are still intimidations of blacks going on to this very day. Not too long ago, a black man was drugged behind a truck in Texas. Drugged from one town all the way to another town. Was racially motivated. Please visit my website at www.lasvegasnevadadui.com or watch me on YouTube at www.youtube.com/Shikama. Thank you for tuning in. This is Kevin Cardinale.